What's up, everybody? It's Dan from Atlas Lens Co. along with
Brendan.
and it's Telecast Tuesday once again. Spooky Telecast Tuesday.
Ooh.
You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready for this. We got
All
the
right,
fire
let's get
going.
spooky. Let's get spooky. So today we have fantastic technical production from B. We have Justin holding it down, taking your questions. So drop a W in the chat if you know what's happening. We got Lily here helping out. We've got Hajun. We've got Devontae. We've even got Randy the skeleton in the building. So what's happening with you this week? How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. Excited. I think we have this little Halloween party coming up.
Sounds spooky. I think that's tomorrow, right?
That's tomorrow. I think so. Yeah.
So if you don't know, Atlas Lens Co., we're having a super secret Halloween party here in the building. If you need information, hit our DMs. Shoot us an email at info@atlaslensco.com. We will send you the private VIP invitation to our special Halloween party going from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow, October 30th, in Glendale, California, home of the Mitchell camera.
I'm
and
excited.
home of Atlas Lens
Yeah.
Co. And home of Glendale IKEA, if you didn't know. So what else is going on? I mean, it's been a very busy month. This has been like the busiest October of my life, perhaps. We were down in San Diego for like a UC San Diego thing. We had people in Korea. We had Hajun over in Korea for a film festival down there. We had the team out in IBC. You were in IBC
Yeah,
in
IBC.
Amsterdam. That was this month, right?
Oh no, that was the last
That
one.
was last month. Well, just goes to show how
Time flies.
How time flies. Yes, that was the end of last month,
Yeah.
September. And we had some of the team out in India for Broadcast India.
That's right.
So that popped off pretty well. And we are super excited for the Halloween party tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you didn't know, our team is going to be at the Camera Image Festival in Poland. So if you're thinking about going to Poland, make no mistake, this is the year for you to go to Poland and see us at Camera Image. We have two seminars that our team is giving in Poland. So you're not going to want to miss this. It's a world-class cinematography festival focusing just on cinematography, movies, all the top cinematographers. Should be pretty fun.
I think we're gonna have scarves too again.
Got to bundle up,
Yeah.
got to keep warm. I hear it's pretty frosty out there. It sounds like we have a question coming in from the chat. Drop W's in the chat if you are excited for Camera Image or Halloween. And also tell us, what is your spooky costume going to be? And come on in with that question, Justin, when you're ready.
Coming in with a camera question. What are the best settings for using your lenses with the GFX 100 II Mark II?
GFX 100 II, fantastic camera. If you didn't know, if you're in 4K 16:9 recording mode on the GFX 100 II, even though it does 8K resolution, if you go to the 8K resolution, it actually punches in, which is not bad if you want a smaller imaging area. It really all depends on what your goals with using the GFX 100 II are. So if your goal is maximum imaging area, then you're going to want the 4K mode. If you want maximum pixel density, you're going to want the 8K mode. And it has anamorphic D-squeeze. If you're trying to maximize recording quality, you might want to use an outboard recorder, something like an Atomos Ninja or a Shogun, or you might want like a Blackmagic Design Video Assist that has that Blackmagic RAW recording output setup. So really, it depends on whether you're using an Orion series or a Mercury series lens. Both of those lenses will work with the GFX 100 II in different modes, and the Mercury series will actually cover that 4K 16:9 mode, which is basically imaging size equivalent to the 16:9 recording mode of an Ariel XS65.
Oh, wow.
Which is sort of like an extraction from the open gate of that. But if you hit our DMs, I will send you a recipe. No matter what Atlas lens you're using, we will send you a recipe that will show you exactly what settings to use on your GFX 100 II. And if you'd like to see us do a live stream again with the GFX 100 II, which is essentially the most affordable, least expensive, 65mm approximately digital format camera you can get, hit our DMs we will give you the full recipe for exactly what settings you might want to use. And if you want to see a stream, let us know. We'll stream with the GFX 102, showing you Atlas Orion series lenses, Atlas Mercury series lenses. Right now you're looking at us in a 3:2 aspect ratio on the Red Raptor X XL. So this is like the most newest generation Red camera. It's got a global shutter, so we could be like firing off strobes at each other right now, like we're doing photos. We could be doing all kinds of like virtual production where we want to do frame blanking with a Genlock. So you could actually like make the background a green screen for half the frame and then a composite background for the other half of the frame.
Wow.
Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, so Red pioneered this like dual recording mode back in the day. They called it HDRX, which was like a temporal HDR where, you know, if you think about the shutter of a camera on a film camera spinning, it's like a mirror shutter spinning around. So half the time the sensor or the film is exposed on a mirror shutter camera, and the other half of the time you're getting a reflex view through a viewfinder that the mirror is kicking back up to you. And so when that mirror spins out of the way, it's exposing the film, and when it's covering the film, it's sending that up to your eye. So you're getting a blanking half the time on, half the time off. But Red had invented this HDRX temporal mapping where the time that you would not be seeing the picture, they're recording one recording, and the other time they're recording another recording. So you could use sort of like, you know, imagine if you have a 1/60th of a second shutter, that 1/60th of a second you're exposing, and then you have a lot of other time, fractional time, that you're not exposing. But they would instead record during that time too in a shorter duration, so you're actually recording less exposure during that time, so shortening the exposure time. And then later you could remap that shortened exposure time to recover highlights.
Does that do anything as far as like image quality?
It would, at the time, I mean, they did this like 15 years ago.
Okay.
They started doing this. And like, you know, love them or hate them, Red has done a lot of really wild and kind of unique things in the history of motion picture and still image making. And I would say that that was definitely a very unique way of doing highlight recovery, because you're doing a very short duration shutter, which would give you, you know, less clipped highlights. So you're exposing way less. But then you could tone map those highlights that are reduced exposure back onto the main recording. So sort of like compositing. And yeah, you might have some motion artifacting if you're really looking closely. But it was a really unique technique, and I think that there's some cool visual things that you can do, and maybe not for everything. Like for high motion things, I think it can work, but maybe not for everything.
Okay.
But to your point, like, it, you know, nothing is perfect, right? It's just how you use it. And I think that was a really interesting technique, but they brought it back with the newest camera. So they'd done that with the first generation Red Epic cameras as a highlight recovery method. And then it's back, but they're using it in a new application form for Genlock with virtual production or with strobes in a global shutter environment. So kind of a neat technique. I mean, I don't know how many people actually are using it, but it would be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm kind of sensitive to like strobing lights, so I feel like I might get a headache if I look back and I see the screen. Half the time it's green and half the time it's like, you know, our fireplace back there. So we're in a micro virtual production environment right now. I can almost feel the heat from that. How about you?
Getting a little toasty in here.
Yeah, might just be me. So yeah, hit us in the chat if you have questions about temporal HDR, high dynamic range, or if you have questions about GFX 100. We will definitely do a stream with the GFX 100 too.
I actually do want to
Pretty
see
nice camera.
that. So
Yeah,
I think
that'll
that'd
be fun.
Yeah.
We should do another Fujifilm Wednesday Lens Day. So if you've never been to one of our Wednesday Lens Days, every Wednesday we have an open house event here, and we welcome people into the space. It's a social time. Last week was really fun because we had sort of like an informal review of people sharing each other's work, cinematography work. That was a real treat. Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's always great to see like what people are doing, and then getting them curious to come in and like ask about anamorphics and be able to actually use them and not be like, what is that? So come down to Wednesday Lens Day every week, every Wednesday, 10:30 to 1:30. Free coffee, right?
Yep, free coffee tomorrow. Come through. So yeah, we have a big Wednesday tomorrow with normal Wednesday during the daytime, and then spooky Wednesday at night. We're going to be mostly having fun, so there's not going to be a lot of lens demos at nighttime, except we are partnering with Kodak, so you'll be able to get a photo of yourself in your Halloween costume on film. We're going to process that and develop it. Huge shout out to Kodak and everyone over at Kodak. It's been a Kodak month. Like, it's been a film month, honestly. Like, I just saw Anora last night. Did you see Anora yet?
I haven't got it. How was it?
You got to see Anora.
Okay.
It was outstanding. The cinematography was amazing. Shout out Drew Daniels, cinematographer on Anora. Used Atlas Orion series lenses, used some Lomo anamorphics, and the blend of the two was spectacular. As a fan of all anamorphic lenses, and a fan of cinematography in general, and like great storytelling, it was an emotional roller coaster, and there was a lot of fun moments, a lot of like comedic but also touching moments, and definitely an interesting exploration into modern culture, you know, and what it means to be alive in a hyper-capitalistic time.
Well, I'm excited to go check it out.
Yes, shout out. Question coming in from the chat.
A couple people saying hi. Maxwell Ridgway just shot a feature in New York City and a short in Arizona on the Mercuries.
Shout out Maxwell Ridgway. Can't wait to see your movies. Drop the name of those movies in the chat. We'd love to get you on a Filmed on Atlas interview. Hit us up. We'd love to interview you about your experience using Atlas lenses for your movie, and can't wait to see your movies.
And Rob asks if we have a mount for the FX3.
Absolutely. We have mounts here in the building. Not only do we have mounts with internal ND, and we sell those mounts with internal ND. We don't make them, but we do sell them. Shout out MoPhage for your internal ND Poco mounts for mirrorless cameras. So, you know, the Mercury series lenses are a great match for any camera system, whether you're using a modern mirrorless camera, whether you're using a film camera and shooting Kodak 35 with a reflex shutter. These lenses are ready for your camera, and they will grow with you with your career no matter what format you're shooting. And we have the mounts here to let you try your cameras with our lenses. So come through. We'd love to see you, welcome you to the building, and let you try our lenses on your camera or our cameras. No problem.
And if you have questions about your camera with the lenses, we'd love to help you out
Ask
with
this
those as
guy.
well.
He has
Yes.
all the answers.
I have some. I don't know about all.
If he doesn't know, he'll figure it out, though.
We'll figure it
That's
out
one of the
together.
things- that's one of the things I know about Brendan, is that if he doesn't know, he will find out. And most of us here in the building, that's our lifelong quest. We're always looking for new and interesting information, learning. We learn from you just as much as you learn from us. And that's a big part of the Atlas culture, is like learning culture. So love that. It's very exciting.
It is.
And speaking of learning, I had a chance to sit in on the ASC Masterclass a little bit last week. Speaking of like all the things we've been running around doing, what an incredible experience. So this last Masterclass at the ASC was all about shooting film, and Lena Sandgren, FSF ASC, was shooting 65 millimeter 15 perf IMAX in the class.
Oh, wow.
But we also had Autumn Durald Arkapaw shooting 65, and Wally Pfister, ASC, also shooting 35 4-perf anamorphic with Panavision C series and B series and some G series. So I got to sit in on a little bit of those classes. Couldn't spend the whole day, unfortunately, but what a treat. We're a sponsor of the ASC Masterclass, and if you can attend any of these classes, we'd recommend signing up for the ASC Masterclass. It's an absolute privilege, a treat, and bar none, excellent experience that will stay with you for a lifetime.
To check that out. Also, a question. Was it pretty loud? Are the IMAX cameras as loud as they are?
You know, that's a great question, Brendan. So Brendan was asking, is the IMAX camera as loud as people say it is? And my takeaway was, what's really funny is that the instructors, they're wearing a microphone, right? Just like we're wearing a lav, so you can hear us on the live stream. So they've got these mics, and they're pumped into a PA system in the building.
Okay.
And so they don't turn off the mic when they're up against the camera. And so you can actually hear the microphone picking up the sound of the camera running. And so it was almost like surround sound IMAX when the camera started rolling. So it was beyond Dolby.
Oh, okay.
It was in the whole building. But the camera itself, we're so used to like people getting mad about fan noise, sound record. It's like, ooh, the Red camera's making a fan noise. And it's like, this is nothing compared to a film camera and especially an IMAX camera, which, I'm someone who likes like looped sound actually. Like, shh, don't tell sound people. I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't think it was that prohibitive, like in terms of actually telling a story and getting the job done. But it's not silent, let's say that, especially if it's coming out of the microphone into the building, which made it extra fun and kind of heightened the auditory experience.
You get to hear like what you normally wouldn't get to hear, right? And then everyone's always kind of like, oh, that light's fan's turning on, or the red's fan's turning on. It's like, well, it's very like a hum. You can't even hear it.
I might be a little bit daft at this point too, so I'm always going, what? So I don't know. But yeah, chat, what else is happening in the world this month and next month? We got, again, Camera Montage. We got the Halloween party tomorrow night. Chat, are there any questions? Are there, this is a Ask Us Anything, so this is your chance to ask Brendan what his favorite color is, what his favorite toothpaste brand is, what he ate for breakfast, and what his favorite lenses are. We know the answer to that question, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Zeiss, right?
Zeiss, yeah, Zeiss. Zeiss for sure.
Got a couple of highs.
Hello.
Love.
Hello, hello.
Got an I love you.
I love you
Thanks.
too.
Thanks, Sharon. Oh, wait, is that
Oh,
for Brendan?
I don't know. Who's that for?
They didn't specify.
Non-specific. Spread the love.
Maxwell Ridgway said his movie is Lace Weaver Spiders, and his short called Hand from the Team on In the Summers just won Sundance.
Oh,
Whoa,
congrats.
shout out.
We'll have to check that out then.
It won Sundance.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be definitely talking about that. Shout out Maxwell Ridgway and congratulations. That's pretty exciting.
Shoot us a DM, right, Max? You should.
He will.
Yeah,
We'll
okay.
reach out to him if he doesn't.
We'll find you.
We'll find you.
Got another question too. What exactly is temporal HDR, and what can it be used for?
Temporal HDR. So HDR is short for high dynamic range, which just means that you're getting more latitude from the darkest part of the frame to the brightest part of the frame. So you're getting more stops of exposure. And temporal HDR is a chronological way of mapping that exposure. So if you think about, we have essentially three variables when it comes to exposure. We have film or digital sensor sensitivity, what we often term ASA or ISO, which is how reactive the receiving material is to the light source, right? We have the duration, the chronological duration of the shutter, which is how long the shutter is open, exposing the light onto that substrate, whether that's a sensor or a piece of film, right?
Yeah.
So we got time, we have sensitivity, and then we have aperture of the lens. And the aperture is like a valve, or like the iris in your eye, the iris in the lens. That is the valve that's letting more light or less light onto the substrate, whether that's a sensor or a film. So there's different ways of achieving high dynamic range or higher dynamic range than normal. And you can think of dynamic range as like, if it's two stops, it's either on or off, right? So that's black or white. But then the number of stops is the number of variables or variations between the darkest dark and the lightest light in the recording. So if we think about temporal HDR, it's a function of time, chronology. So chronology is the duration of how long the shutter is open or closed for, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So in stills, we often think of this in fractions of a second. So 1/60th of a second, 1/120th of a second. So to give you a very direct, very real representation in that format, imagine we're shooting at 1/50th of a second.
Mm-hmm.
So if we shoot at 1/50th of a second, which is close to 1/48th of a second, which would be half the time if we're shooting 24 frames a second, right? So if you get 24 total frames in a second, half that time is on, half that time is off.
Yeah.
So 24 times 2, because you got the on and the off, 48. So 1/48th of a second, fractional.
Okay.
So if we take it, try and make this as simple as possible. 1/48th of a second, you have 47 more slices of time besides that 48th, that single 48th of a second, right? So if the shutter is only open for 1/48th of a second, letting light through at that time, 47 out of 48 fractions of a second, it's dark. Make sense?
Yes.
So those 47 other fractional times, if you take another slice, you could take an even shorter slice, which means less light will get through, which means that you'll be able to preserve more of the highlight range depending on the sensitivity of the sensor or the film. So if you were able to take a 48th of a second, map that, and then you take a 96th of a second, so half of that time, it's going to be half as much light that hits the sensor or the film at that time. So it'll be half as bright.
Okay.
So you're cutting the brightness by half in the upper limit.
Yeah.
So you can map that darkened portion into the other recording or overlay it or combine it, and then you'll have temporal HDR.
Interesting.
So it just gets into slicing time, which is something that I'm always doing. Is like, well, I've got an hour to do this, so I'm going to try to fit 12 things in that hour. And that means I only get 5 minutes for each thing. But if I'm going to give you 10 minutes, then you're going to get more of that temporal resolution
Okay.
and get more exposure to my ranting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
A little
so.
bit.
A little bit. It
Hopefully,
makes more
chat, if
sense.
that doesn't make sense, let us know, and we'll try to find a white paper on it. But basically, if you just think about dividing time into smaller pieces, that's what temporal high dynamic range can do for you. So you could shorten the shutter duration so you're letting less light onto the sensor or the film, and it's going to be a darker exposure. So it's going to be less blown out.
So would that be great for more like high contrast scenes or just more like brighter scenes?
I would say it's the kind of thing, to me, I've actually never found the personal need, and I'm going to shout out to Haskell Wexler, ASC here. He's like, why do we need high dynamic range? This is something he said a long time ago. I'm always shooting in the same 5 stops. I kind of agree with Haskell Wexler. We don't need 22 stops of dynamic range. Like, our eyes as humans adjust to these things, but I like contrast. I like seeing the difference between dark and light. I like darkness,
Okay.
personally. But if we're in a situation where we have a sensor that's very sensitive, we're shooting digital, and we're like, oh, like this picture would look great, except that the window, everything outside the window is like white. I can't see anything, and I'm trying to see something outside. This is a great case for an HDR situation where maybe we can't bring up the exposure of the room indoors, but we want to see the inside of the room and we want to see outside the window at the same time. And so if you have a shortened duration of exposure for the window and you don't have the time to put a scrim over the window or a neutral density over just the window, and you want it darker outside but lighter inside, then that's a nice way of balancing it. So you
Okay.
could get, you know, more visibility in a high contrast lighting scenario.
Yeah.
So it's not to add contrast. In a way, HDR takes away contrast, or, you know, as display systems get capable of showing brighter and brighter images, which is, again, controversial, hot take, I don't necessarily personally like the brightest theater experience where you go in the theater and your eyes are like, oh, like I need sunglasses in the theater. I like a dark theater experience where I go into this dark cave and then I get to see a window into this magical world, and I'm taken away to this magical movie experience. But as display systems get brighter and they're capable of a technical ability to show like this is truly black, like there's no light coming from the screen, and yet we can also nail you with like sunlight where you're basically getting like a sunburn from the movie screen. Then yeah, you might want to be able to record that dynamic range so that in the recording you can preserve true blackness, and you can also have like sunlight that makes you feel like, you know, did we just get hit with the Oppenheimer blast here?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a case for that, I suppose. But in the chat, let us know, do you like high dynamic range experiences, or are you someone who thinks in the Haskell Wexler school of cinematography, where we're mostly using 5 stops of dynamic range, and like if we get stuff outside that that makes it look natural, that's beautiful. I kind of like that school. Like, we know our limits, but like if we can push the limits, then that's a beautiful thing.
Tools, and then it's like how you want to use them to break those, right?
And knowing what your audience is looking at. I mean, I think we have a big challenge as display systems change that defines so much of the way that we craft images. So like, if we're making images for the phone, like we're streaming right now, most of you are probably watching on your phones. We intentionally formatted this in a 3:2 aspect ratio today to show more screen space rather than doing widescreen, because if you're on a vertical phone, then we don't want to be in the smallest letterbox ever where you can barely see Brendan and I. And it's like, who are those little mice in there in the screen? Instead, we're big mice today. So where's the cheese at, dog?
I left it at home, sorry.
I'll have to get some cheese after this.
Another one coming in from Tyler.
Tyler, shout out Tyler.
Shout out Tyler. Any new wider photo lengths
Any
Focal
new
lengths for the
wider
Mercury?
focal lengths in the Mercury series? Well,
coming this year? and
if
next year?
you are going to be at Camera Image 2024, or Camera Image as the Polish like to say, you might get a sneak preview from Forrest Schultz, co-founder and lead designer of Atlas Lens Co lenses. And there's a very special seminar where there may be some very special secret new products.
I haven't heard of this. I'm excited. Now I got to tune
It's a
in.
secret, yeah. Maybe we got to mail you to Poland.
I don't mind.
Flat Stanley, shout out. Anybody ever read the Flat Stanley books? I think I'm going to get my daughter that book. We were talking about books this morning. So, you know, flatten the guy out and put him in a mailing envelope, ship him out.
Yeah, and whatever it is, I'll go Poland. But yeah, so Forrest is going to be doing the seminar for that.
Yeah,
do we know what
Forrest,
day?
and I believe Scott DeWald also, who's our chief optical engineer, brilliant, genius man, and also one of the founding fathers of modern display systems, Scott DeWald, inventor of DCI P3 color gamut,
Wow.
legend in our time. He will be in Poland, so you're not going to want to miss this seminar. Huge, big stuff. Check it out.
He's doing that with Forrest? Or are they
They're
separate?
going to be doing it together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's the second seminar. The first one
Okay.
I think is more about cinematographers, and I think about, in particular, like female voices in cinematography. So that's going to be pretty exciting, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but double check me. Check our Camera Image schedule, and you will find out. So click the ad in our Instagram, find out more about Camera Image. You will find it. Search it. Can't wait to show it. All right, any other questions from the chat? Ask us anything.
We have all our lenses too.
Can't
You guys
promise I'll have
any-
any answers, but I'll try.
We had one more question about how was Anora, kind of touched on it.
Oh, yo, shout out Anora. Again, if you're just joining, I took a little special afternoon sabbatical for myself and went to the movies yesterday after work. And I watched Anora in the theater at the AMC Burbank. It was an elite viewing experience. The screen was fantastic. The projection was beautiful. The seats were comfortable. The air temperature was just right. Didn't have any popcorn, but it was a beautiful viewing experience, and the movie was spectacular. It's the newest Sean Baker film, and Drew Daniels, cinematographer, absolutely crushed it. The actors and actresses in the film killed it. It was a journey. You have to go see the movie.
I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Anora, go see it in theaters now. Shot on film and Atlas lenses.
Can't beat that.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. But we will see you tomorrow at our Halloween party, or at Wednesday Lens Day if you can't make it to the Halloween party. If you need the information for the Halloween party, hit our DMs. We'll get you all the specifics. You're not going to want to miss this. Hopefully you had a fantastic time talking with Brendan and I. Again, shout out to B for amazing technical production. Shout out to Lily for helping get this beautiful lighting setup going. And shout out to Justin for helping hold down your questions from the chat. Drop W's, drop some skulls, drop some pumpkins in the chat. We love you. Atlas Lens Co. Anamorphic worldwide, baby. We'll see you in Poland. We'll see you at the Halloween party. Appreciate you. Keep it going. Let's go. Peace out.